Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the second discussion that we're doing this week. This week's discussion topic, as you know, is the distinguishment, or we will be discussing the distinguishment between freedom and liberty in early Western civilization. The distinguishment between freedom and liberty have both been defined in early American writings. They are also both confused with one another, and their real differences are sometimes never understood. The dictionary definition of freedom is the power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants without hindrance or restraint. Whereas liberty is defined as the state of being free within society from oppressive restrictions imposed by authority on one's way of life, behavior, or political views. The common meaning of freedom that is in society today is more so the actual meaning of liberty. Liberty is the actual freedom and choice that we have in our nation today. And of course, freedom is also very much a central theme in the United States Constitution, as we will discuss. The First Amendment to our nation's Constitution gives us our rights as freedoms as citizens. Obviously, it focuses in on the First Amendment, but there's all of our amendments. Every part of the Constitution focuses on our sense of freedom as a new country at that time, but the First Amendment primarily. In Caroline Robbins' The 18th Century Commonwealthmen, which is the book we're reading, she references on page 120 and 121 Cato's letters in her book while discussing liberty, and I found those particularly insightful. Cato's letters were a series of writings by British writers John Trenchard and Thomas Gordon, first published from 1720 to 1723 under the pseudonym of Cato, who lived from 95 to 46 BC. Robbins, in her book, when she discusses the letters, uses excerpts from several of Cato's letters, but most notably from the second letter that he wrote about, which discussed liberty in pretty good detail. It reads, quote, "All men are born free. Liberty is a gift which they receive from God himself, nor can they alienate the same by consent, though possibly they may forfeit it by crimes." It also reads that, quote, "Liberty naturally draws new people to it, as well as increases the old stock. And men is naturally run when they dare from slavery and wretchedness, whithersoever than they can help themselves. Hence great cities losing their liberty become deserts, and little towns by liberty grow great cities." I thought that was a great quote that focuses on liberty from our reading. Freedom, on the other hand, is our ability to speak and act freely as we please as a people of this nation, or any free nation in the West. Liberty, on the other hand, are the rights and principles in which we are given as the free people. Our founding fathers knew freedom was a newer but reachable concept, having lived under the tyranny of Britain for many decades of their lives. This is a very new concept that they fought and died over, and committed what was then technically treason, just because they believed in it so much and they wanted to live in a free country where they had freedom and liberty so much. No taxation without representation is just one of the feelings toward living without many freedoms or liberties that they did not have at one time, at least not to an extent that they should have had. These feelings and the lead up to our own Constitution in 1787 was definitely inspired by the Magna Carta of 1215, which listed, in that document, listed rights of the people. Anthony Lewis wrote a book. He's a historian, and he wrote a book called "The Freedom for Thought, for the Thought We Hate," a biography of the First Amendment. And I got a lot of information from that, talking about how the influence of the Magna Carta on our Constitution and many of our elements of our early founding. And we've also read about it in this class, obviously, in Inventing Freedom book, the Inventing Freedom book we read. It was really interesting. I had never read that concept, and I found that really interesting to read about. But Lewis just kind of jumps on it more and focuses in on it more, and that's kind of where all that comes from. The distinguishment between freedom and liberty is essential to understand when discussing early Western civilization. Freedom was a sought after characteristic during America's independence and its earliest actions. This is something that many of the men had not experienced at a full extent, and they had yet to fight. And they had to fight in order to get it. Like I mentioned, liberty is the rights given to us as a people of a free nation. But like I said, the ideas of freedom and liberty are definitely construed sometimes. I think sometimes people think of freedom as liberty, and liberty kind of being it's a similar, they run together kind of thing, and they do. But they're definitely two different things, and especially during the early founding area in the West. So, thank you very much.